absolutely wild as Vern Gagne's All-Star Wrestling goes coast to coast and continent to continent. The greatest wrestlers in the world.
He may be an apprentice carpenter, but I guarantee you he is a seasoned ring veteran.
I've been hit with bar stools, bar rags, barmaids.
I'm talking to you.
They're scared that Hulkamania's still running wild. Oh, yeah. I got a big fat wife and 9 kids at home, and I gotta feed them.
And take a look at Jesse the Body in real life.
Open your hand once if you would.
You want to see it?
This is absolutely unbelievable. Totally, completely out of control.
He's coming in over the top. Hey! Look out!
You would think after 182 episodes that we would try and do something different with our intro. Nah. Because we're not going to go over the top rope. We don't go under the bottom rope. I don't even think we get into the ring, but we like to be on the outside. Oh, hi guys. Hi.
Let me tell you something. I couldn't get over the top rope with the 12-foot step ladder. I can't get under the bottom rope because of my stomach. I'd get hung up. I'd look like Moby Dick on the sand there. But yeah, into the ring. No, it ain't gonna happen.
How would you get into the ring? Would you just be like, screw it, I'm not gonna do it?
If somebody could actually, like roll me under or pull me with a crane or something and stand me up, I think so. Ken Anderson does that gimmick, with announcers when he sets up a chair in the middle of the ring and they stand on the chair and drop down the microphone. It would be total disaster. I mean, you would see me and then you'd hear this tremendous crash of metal and everything else. And talk about a chair shot. I would take one right in the ass. And no, not a good thing.
You know how some wrestlers or referees, managers will lift up the rope for the women to get into the ring?
Mm-hmm.
They need to do that to the bottom rope for Kurt to roll into the ring.
Can I be self-deprecating on my own without?
No, I'm agreeing with you, Mick.
All right.
You mark this down. Episode 182 at about 2 minutes and 48 seconds. I agree with Mick Arch.
It's kind of like Halley's Comet. That comes around once every, 1,000 years or whatever it is. That's.
Oh my God, the sky is falling. The sky is falling. Chicken Little over here.
I will agree with you guys on another thing, that we are the preeminent podcast for the AWA. That goes without saying, but we say it anyway.
We are absolutely preeminent. We might be the only one, but we are still preeminent. That's a word that we like to use. And I actually hear some of my other friends and other podcasts use it. And I send them, I'm like, yeah, nice to know where you got the word preeminent, dickhead. Is
that gimmick infringement? Can we go?
I didn't trademark preeminent.
Okay.
If I can't spell it, I won't trademark it if I can't spell it.
But the difference is Chris spells it with a small p and they do it with a large P, so they're able to get away with it.
I understand.
Yes, because if there's anything people know about me, it's a small p. Anyway, hey, today we are going to talk with a oh my God, I just realized what I said. Okay, well, scratch that from the record. I didn't mean to say that.
Oh, no. We had
we're not scratching, pal. Put away the calamine lotion. No, you're on.
Well, yeah, that's what happens when you have a small P. You're always on. Before we get to our what?
Go ahead.
Never in.
Before we get to our guest today, guys, a couple of things I do want to tell you about. All nonsense aside. We do have our Back to Ringside with Mick and myself. It's where, we talk about the weekly going on in the current product. That is part of our Pinfall membership. You see it there on the screen. You get access to this podcast a day early. You get our monthly watch along, which is great because it's Mystery Science Theater 3000 meets professional wrestling. You get a personalized thank you letter along with a sticker and a magnet for me. You get pictures from Mick, and you get to be a Pinfall Ringsider of the Week as well. You get to be featured. And Mick, you're known for Saturday night at Ringside. We kind of had a modernized spin on this, but I absolutely love our pinfall membership for $4.99. It's the best value in wrestling podcasting. I mean, we could very easily double or triple the price point if we wanted. I don't want to, because I want to make it affordable, and I want to give as many people the opportunity to become pinfall members as you can. And we love it. We enjoy doing it. And I'm super, super excited for those that are in our pinfall membership. So just something to keep in mind. And
let me plug the whole Wrestling Science Theater 3000. Let's see, this Friday. So next week we will be releasing the watch along, and it will be about Vern Gagne. The entire episode, you'll see stuff going back to the training camp when Sergeant Slaughter and Chris Taylor and Paul Pershman, aka Buddy Rose, were in there. Really, really, really good show.
I do have to correct you though, Joe, because the watch along would have dropped by now because we're recording this a week early.
Well, that's the magic of doing this haphazardly. So hold on, rewind.
If there's something we do, it's half-ass, right? There's no full. Well, there are full asses here, but that being said, Mick, speaking of full asses, I'm going to hand it over to you, and we can actually get into our guest because I think he's probably tired of our nonsense.
Hang on a minute. Let me do a little Bobby Heenan for, That's what Bobby would do, and he was yelling at the crowd. This is a real pleasure for me, and I've been going back and forth with this gentleman to be on our show for a long time. We finally connected, and we're kind of brethren in the business because I'm thinking to myself, this guy and I were on SNR kind of together, separately at the same time, 1990, 91-ish.
Together and separate. That describes my first marriage.
Yeah. But, when you talk about the nice guys in the business, and I really mean this, class act, understated, but a great, great talent and very humble guy, great guy. Let's bring him in. Now, talk about AKAs. We're going to do one right here because we've got, oh boy.
What in the name of Ron Trongard are we doing here? Hi, everybody.
Hey!
Ron Trongard. Oh, man. Boy, oh, boy.
It's an AWA podcast.
It certainly
along with
is.
Lord James Blears.
Oh yeah. There was two guys that loved each other, Blears and Trongard.
Oh, God.
But John Horton, aka Craig Johnson, buddy, we've been trying to get you on for a long time. This is really a pleasure. We're going to have a lot of fun talking about your history in the business. Mm-hmm. But before we do that, you not suffering from jet lag, looking great, looking chipper.
Thank you.
Just got back from the land of Greece, and you before we came on, you had nothing but superlatives to talk about the country and your experience. So let's talk about that a little bit before we talk wrestling.
Well, thank you very much, and it is a great honor to be on with you all. I have been following Mick for so long, back in the days when I was part of Superstars of Wrestling down with Joe and Bonnie, and of course in the old USWA and Global days. I did just get back from Greece. I was over there for a summit of women where I was brought over to teach a kindness and authenticity class.
Wow, great.
And when you talk about people who literally need to find kindness and authenticity, if you think of the way that we treat certain sectors of the world, we treat them with judgment, we treat them with preconceived notions of who they are. But what people don't realize is that we've been chasing normal for all our lives. People say, I just want to be normal. But what if you changed that perspective by adding 2 letters to it? Those letters being MY. What is my normal?
Exactly.
Mick, your normal is being a pro wrestling fan your entire life and giving your life and love to the AWA and the joy that you had bringing your love to people. Did people judge you for that? Did real sports people judge you for that? Of course they did, but they've never lived your normal. And so I went over there and taught that to a very powerful group of women who just, I was honored to be in their presence, let alone be honored to teach. So Greece was beyond my wildest expectations because I've never felt so loved, and I've never been in a country that still talks to each other. I went to a restaurant. The restaurant was packed, only one person on their telephone.
Nice.
I mean, it's the beauty of what we all want to see. So, yeah, I don't have jet lag, but I do have tears from time to time because it was a great and wonderful event. But I've been smiling so much just listening to the small P's and the different things that you all have been discovering on your own.
Oh, I discovered the small P a long time ago. Don't make any mistake about that. That's been my thing since I was like 5.
Here's the thing. I mean, you may have been enjoying it thus far, John, but you got a little time yet.
Yes, indeed I do.
Time.
I could always bring this guy back in, you know.
Oh, look at him. What a good-looking guy that is. But we're gonna make the transition. Talk about the normal and the my normal and our normal.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna talk about pro wrestling, and I think Joe, you wanted to kind of kick things off a little bit.
Well, I think we'll get into the pro wrestling aspect of it, but first, I gotta talk to you about your background in the broadcasting world. It certainly involves more than just professional wrestling. So tell us a little bit more of those other spokes in the broadcasting wheel of your career.
Well, thanks, Joe. I was a sportscaster. First and foremost, started in 1982, or actually 1981 in Dallas, Texas, as the student voice of the SMU Mustangs, which at the time was the best paid team in all of college football. So you can imagine my surprise these days when they actually do pay the players.
Well, they just admit it now.
Yes. Yeah. Did a lot of high school football in my college days, and then was pleased to be named the voice of the Dallas Sidekicks of the Major Indoor Soccer League. Got to call a championship with them. Ended up working with the former Washington Redskins, doing a television show for them, continued my broadcasting with George Washington University. And then I made I was friends with the guys at Andrews Entertainment because I had lived in Dallas, went to school at SMU, and knew of their work in world-class championship wrestling. And I said to Max one day, hey, if Mark Lawrence ever needs a summertime replacement, I'd be more than happy to do it. And I get a phone call saying, John, how long are you available for a summertime replacement? And I said, well, I'm not doing anything until basketball starts next year. He said, would you consider coming back down here to Dallas and doing USWA? And I said, well, when's Mark going to be back? And they said, he's not. Wow. And so my audition was my first day on the air on my birthday, which also happened to be Kevin Von Erich's birthday, apparently.
Gosh.
That's a heck of a birthday present.
There I am appearing in front of, we had good ratings back then because there weren't that many things on the television. My audition was in front of America. And I had all the confidence in the world because I had been a lifelong wrestling fan. And so I brought sportscasting to wrestling commentary because I think the first thing people noticed was that I talked about their colleges. I talked about where they, what sports they might have played. I actually talked about their old championships. Thank you, Jarrett, for allowing me to do that, because it gave them a basis. It made them a personality. It created an amazing opportunity for us to get to know them. Hey, look at that snappy guy in a tuxedo. And it was phenomenal to be able to bring them to the fore as athletes instead of just wrestlers.
What's interesting about that is you're talking about how Jarrett gave you the okay to acknowledge, other people, other places, championships, what have you. In the early 1980s, that was so taboo. You just did not. There was no other promotion. There was nobody else. If you brought in a champion, he was recognized as a world champion, but you didn't dare mention the territory. Oh, there's our buddy Steve Prazak.
Steven the Truth.
Steven the Truth. What a character he is. I absolutely love that guy. But again, I mean, that's kind of groundbreaking. And it's interesting that today, a little bit, depending on which announcers you're listening to, they will acknowledge another promotion. They don't get away with it a lot. And I think AEW probably gets away with it a lot more than WWE does. But that's great. I mean, you came from an era that you were kind of transitioning, or the business was transitioning, probably about 5 years after you got this gig. I'm thinking Vince's, when Hogan won the title was in 1984, you're in, closer to 1990. Mm-hmm. But man, the business has changed, but we'll get, into that a little bit.
But I mean, to what you were doing though, John, you're adding legitimacy when you treated it as an actual sport, that they have athletic backgrounds rather than just coming from all forms of life. And if you've got a good body, that's great. Mm-hmm. But you might have a great physique, but you have no athletic ability. And to be able to sell that, I feel it just enhances the competition aspect of what wrestling should be.
Well, think about the background I came from. Before every game, I'd be handed a packet of press notes that gave me all sorts of background on all the players, their statistics, their hometowns, and everything. And so I was so used to having that in calling the play-by-play of anything that I did, that it felt like I needed something like that when it came to calling wrestling.
Sure.
Yeah, you have to add context. I come from a play-by-play background as well, working with the U of M. And so I completely understand. You've got the media packet and you've got all of these pieces of information. How can you layer this information to help tell the story, to enhance the product, to therefore add to the believability? Because you don't have anybody, feeding your earpiece. You have that information there. It's up to you to put the pieces of the puzzle together.
And the freedom that they gave me was amazing, because I said, I want to bring my sportscasting into this. And while I eventually learned to get guys over, because obviously I came in from a sportscasting background and then eventually moved into a wrestling type background, but never lost that sportscasting side of it. I think that's why people like Meltzer and people like Keller and different fans were like, this guy's different, because I was calling it as a sporting event.
Yeah.
And that's all I knew. And so to be able to present them as more than just their character allowed me to connect. It allowed me to connect the fans to the wrestler more. So there was a deeper bond there. Gotcha. It was getting them over in a different way. And to be able to be the person that's kind of started that, I'll take pride in that. I'm sure we'll eventually get into, hey, Craig Johnson, why didn't you continue in pro wrestling? Because I was there for those 3 years and then I was gone.
Yeah. Well, who gave you the name Craig Johnson?
That was me. So my real name is John Horton. My original name was going to be John Craig Horton, named after Craig Stevens, the Peter Gunn actor, who happened to be my dad's best friend.
No kidding.
And he was at my wedding, actually. Although the wedding's no longer valid anyway, but that's beside the point. So I took Craig from Craig Stevens, and my dad's name was John, so Craig Johnson.
I love it.
And that's where it came from. And that was back in the days when if you wanted to stay in sports, you did not do wrestling.
Right.
But I actually ended up using it on the Major Indoor Lacrosse League when I started doing that for Prime Network. And people were going, why do we have a wrestling announcer? And then I changed to John Horton the next year, and people were like all confused. But then I didn't get the, what do we got a wrestling guy for?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for putting the earworm of the Peter Gunn theme in my head. Really appreciate that. Back to my daughter's band days in junior high, always played the Peter Gunn theme.
Mm-hmm.
I really quickly wanted to allude to what you were talking about as far as getting the guys over by, mentioning their amateur background. In a sense, I remember now Rod Trongard did that.
Oh, okay.
And I think that was because he worked with Vern, and Vern would say, be sure to mention that Brad Ringens did this and Kent Patera had this background and that background. And it absolutely does legitimize the guys as athletes, as opposed to these just, I hate it, sports entertainer guys. Mm-hmm. So good for you. And again, I want to thank you for Peter Gunn, because that's it. It is in my head for the rest. Oh God. Thank you, John.
Well, happy to mana you for you.
No. See, Mick too well. You put one thing in his head and it won't leave.
Yes.
It's over.
So I actually, my last job was I was a corporate trainer. And we would have these warm-up things. And the last question would always be like, what Disney sidekick would you be? Or what superhero would you be? And the last question I had on one was, how much do you hate me right now? And it had 13 different songs with earworms on the bottom of it to where they had all of them. And they were like, no.
Yeah, well.
And I went, and I thank you.
Good. Appreciate it. Good. Okay. Go ahead, Chris. Joe, go ahead.
John, let's go down to Texas. Let's get to WCCW. Texas always had a reputation for, shall we say, some pretty wild matches. Mm-hmm. And of course, it was done at the world famous Sportatorium.
On the corner of Industrial and KD's?
Yep, and it, shall we say that the Sportatorium is notorious for its insanity. But let's talk about the building itself and the overall atmosphere. We had James Beard on, and he gave us a little insight to it. But let's get your take on the world famous Sportatorium.
I can use the esteemed words of Fred Schneider in describing the Sportatorium, or actually it was Kate Pearson. Tin roof, rusted. It was a metal building in Texas in the summer when I first arrived.
Oh my God.
Corrugated metal all around. The only thing that felt like it might be modern civilization was Fritz's old office that had air conditioning.
Well, of course.
The seats were hard wood. Half of the building was gone from a fire, but you also knew that Elvis and Willie Nelson played there. You could smell the popcorn walking in, and you could also smell the French fry grease, which I don't think was changed in years. It was a place of magic because the energy was so beautiful when you walked in that door on a Friday night, knowing that the Freebirds and Von Erichs were finally going to get it going, that Chris Adams was going to take on the next villain that would come through, where the great Kabuki and Gary Hart terrorized everybody there. And Skandor Akbar brought devastation to the Sportatorium. It was like walking into the palestra in college basketball, for Madison Square Garden, for hockey, or for pro basketball. It had that feeling to it. It was an absolute dump, but it was our dump.
I absolutely love
Yeah,
that.
I feel like there are. Oh, sorry, I was going to say. I think there are certain. Oh, I'm going to say I think there are certain buildings in wrestling lore where we hear about wrestling at the Chase, or we hear about the Cow Palace. Is the Sportatorium, because you look at. We never saw the dilapidated part of it. Like I always viewed it as just this big time energetic, arena. Because the Von Erichs come to the ring and everybody is just, they can't get to the ring because there's so many people, and it's like, man, what an atmosphere. I mean, it was good versus bad. It was the personification of good versus evil and energy, and it's probably in one of my top. It's in my top 5 of all-time wrestling venues, regardless of whether I've been there or not.
And if you watch the movie The Iron Claw, I was amazed at how they captured the ambiance of the Sportatorium. It was amazing that they weren't able to recreate the building in total, but that energy was absolutely there in the movie. It was scary watching that movie, realizing I was actually there.
My wife isn't a fan of wrestling, and even she watched the movie and she was just blown away by it.
Oh, some movies transcend wrestling. I mean, remember the Titans? Is it about football? Is Ted Lasso about soccer? Yeah. No, it's about the human nature and human drama and what we all go through. That family was tragic. I mean, I saw Carrie's downfall. The thing that they talk about, Kevin not being very good with interviews. The interview that I had with him where he was reading a piece of paper and he couldn't keep his train of thought. I think it was just because they were focused on one thing, and that was the performance in the ring. And that is where the Von Erich magic came from. It wasn't necessarily their promos, with the exception of David, who I never had an opportunity to work with. But it was the magic in the ring that spoke volumes. It was seeing them do what they do better than a lot of people have ever done it.
I got to ask you, it sounds like you really did love the movie. You see the reviews and reports like they were missing one of the Von Erich boys in the movie and so forth. Scale of 1 to 10 on overall. I mean, you could nitpick anyone, but where would you rate that movie? Because I personally enjoyed it tremendously.
I give it a good 8 at least. Yeah, they left out the tragedy of Chris, but think about Chris's story. Think about the fact that they tried everything they could do to fit him. And I'm talking about the real Von Erichs. I'm talking about the actual life. All the things they did to allow him to fit into wrestling, putting him with Percy Pringle, trying to give him an opportunity when he had no business in the world being anywhere near it. And coming from a Hollywood family, because my dad was in the movie business, sometimes you have to take parts of stories and bring them together to make a cognizant story that isn't always factually true, but true to the spirit of it. One more suicide would have made that movie almost unbearable.
John,
so I see what they did
with
that.
Kevin's call to leave Mike out of the movie?
You mean Chris? Yeah,
Chris.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. But that almost sounds more like a Hollywood call.
Well,
Because
you think about it,
I've written some screenplays in my time, and there are some times when it's better to combine two people into one than it is to try to just leave somebody out.
well, and you know, you were talking about it too, John, that if those that are not familiar with the Von Erich story, you think there's no way you keep adding one tragedy on top of another on top of another. It's like, now you're just making this up. And it's like, no, this was real. And so I can understand where you kind of have to scale it back, because otherwise those that aren't familiar, they're going to be like, this is just such
Hollywood,
an unreal
fiction.
Well, it's a difference between a movie and a documentary. That's what people, you know, they go into it and they'll see in the beginning of the movie, or they'll hear a pre-review of it. It'll say based on a true story. Exactly. If you want to get all of the facts, if you will, then go see the documentary or go read a book that somebody had put out there. It's a movie. What is a movie supposed to do? Much like pro wrestling, put butts in the seats. And so they have to make it entertaining. So I agree. Leaving them out didn't wreck the story of the Von Erich family. I agree. I think it would have wrecked it more, having yet another extreme family tragedy, another suicide be presented on screen. It's like, why? Just
why?
Yes. Stick to the whole of the story, which is what they did, which is why I think I really enjoyed that movie.
Let's take this conversation into a bigger context. People who watch wrestling. There are so many people who criticize they should have booked it this way or should have booked it that way. There are so many people that in sports think that they're a general manager. I would have taken that quarterback out. I would have called timeout. But it's not your decision to make.
That's right.
Enjoy it for what it is. Don't try to change it. Watch what's going on screen. Now, if you want to play fantasy booker in your own head, have at it. Love it. If you want to have discussions, kind of like fantasy football or whatever, of how you would do things, great. But you have people who are literally putting their lives on the line many times. Every time I see somebody jumping out of the ring, I'm like, I hope they catch them. Mm-hmm. And then I sit back and go, why are they standing there to catch him? But if you think that somebody is genuinely trying to write you a storyline that you're going to enjoy, then enjoy it. If you don't like it, turn the channel or now go to a different app.
John, we have talked about that and the keyboard warriors, and we've said many times nobody hates wrestling more than wrestling fans in a lot of ways. And when you were talking about people complaining about Chris being not in the movie, I thought to myself, boom, wrestling fans.
Yep.
They're not going to go there and enjoy the movie. Hey, wait a minute, you didn't mention Chris. It's always let's go for the juggler in any way that we can. I agree with you. Just go enjoy it. Shut up, eat your popcorn, watch the movie for what it is, and just let it be.
I'm an F1 fan. I would have put a banana on Max Verstappen's tailpipe every single week because I'm tired of him when he winning by 23 seconds.
Yeah.
But I still watch because if you truly are a fan of racing, you're watching the race between 3 and 4 and who's going to make it to the podium. You're watching the ability of somebody to come from the back of the pack and go forward. So while Max or the New York Yankees or the Kansas City Chiefs may be doing everything that you're doing that make you want to hate them, remember there's a whole other story out there.
Absolutely.
And that's the way I choose to see it.
Well said. Well
Thank
said.
you.
You know, we're talking so much about world class, and I love world class. I love watching it when I was a kid. I loved watching all wrestling. It went through some changes between world class to global to USWA and then back to world class. To be a part of that, like this brands and rebranding, and especially at that point, like I got to imagine it just kind of got a little stressful at times, didn't it?
So I was actually a sound person and played the entrance music for World Class. That was my job when I first got in, and how I got involved with Max Andrews. But that was also back in the days when there might have been 45 people in the Sportatorium. It was the dog days of World Class. And so I went back to Washington, D.C. to produce the show for the Washington football team and do George Washington University basketball. So when I came back, it was already USWA, but I had watched Channel 27, Channel 50 in Washington, D.C. had wrestling every night. Instead of doing it all on Saturday night, they did it Monday through Friday at 7 o'clock. So I got to keep up to date with everything that was going on. So when I came in, it was USWA. And USWA was a lot of fun. I mean, Jerry booked it. Oh, there's that guy. Look at that hair. Oh my God.
Is that hair or is that a top hat? I mean, that's
God. That looks like something I saw on Star Trek last week.
You got the Joe Scarborough hair there.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I actually had a perm on that hair once.
Oh. Wow.
I talking. Oh, USWA. So we had everything rolling on USWA, and then the Von Erichs decided they didn't want Jerry to use the Sportatorium anymore. So we had to go do those massive tapings of 6 shows a night in Memphis or Louisville. And so we shot 30 shows in a week. And my voice was totally gone by the time I hit Louisville. So I went back. Michael St. John came in for whatever shows that they were able to have. And then now you see the reason why I never worked again. Not Bill Gundy. And then I will tell you a story I don't think any of you all have ever heard. How did I get the global gig? I had called Channel 69, WVEU in Atlanta, home of Superstars of Wrestling. And they put me through to Bonnie Blackstone because I was also working syndication for Andrews Entertainment because they weren't going to pay me full time for being an announcer. And so I said, Bonnie, Craig Johnson here. Am I doing okay? And she goes, well, I think you're doing great, but there's somebody else who could tell you better. And she hands the phone to Joe Pedicino. And I said, Joe, just starting in the wrestling business, how am I doing? He goes, you're doing fantastic. And this is your first gig in the wrestling business? I said, yes. He said, wow. He said, I'm curious, why did you call? I said, I just want to know how I'm doing, Joe. And you're one person that I trust because I've watched Channel 69 when I come through Atlanta. And I just really would appreciate your opinion. So move forward to when USWA wasn't able to play the Sportatorium anymore. And Joe and I are having lunch at Dickie's Barbecue along with Bonnie. And he said, you really don't know why we're here, do you? I said, no. They said, well, we're working with, Olu Oliami. I'm not going to get into that story, but we're working with a person to buy USWA and make it the Global Wrestling Federation. And we believe we have our announcer already. But I just wanted you to know that we really appreciate you and think you're a wonderful person. And I said, well, thanks, Joe. I took this as a summertime replacement gig. I never thought it would go on. And we continued with lunch. And he told me some of the people who were going for the job, including Bischoff.
Oh.
And I said, well, yeah, those people have been in it a lot longer. I totally understand. And then Joe said, I think we made a bad decision. I said, what? Said, we think you should be the announcer of Global.
Oh, man.
And I said, why? They said, because you care about what you do. You're not in it for you. You're in it for the business.
Oh, God.
And I said, absolutely. And so that's how I became the announcer for Global, apparently over Chris Cruz.
Oh, well, we'll take that any day.
Yeah. But it's just, I don't know Chris. I don't know Chris from anybody, honestly. I've never met Chris.
A nicer guy.
But I just wanted to be a wrestling announcer.
Oh, my God. Oh, jeez.
And that's why I teach these classes that I do in kindness and authenticity, because if you can't be your authentic self and be loved, then what the hell can you be?
John, Chris knows why I'm reacting the way I am, because you hit such a nerve with me in terms of, I just wanted to be a wrestling announcer.
Yeah.
It's my passion. And then I'm listening to you talk about the connection with Joe Pedicino and Bonnie Blackstone. They were my contacts first through Paul E. when I got here, and he called up and he said, contact Joe and Bonnie for the wrestling block up in Minneapolis. So the parallel is just, I'm just enthralled with what you're saying. There's so much here that I identify with, and all of a sudden this became my favorite podcast ever.
We have so much alike, Mick. I mean, I go through I follow you on Facebook, although I'm not on Facebook as much as I used to be. But I follow you on Facebook, and the one thing that I can tell more than anything is you love this.
Yeah.
It is your absolute love. Your kids have a special place. Your family has a special place. But your heart is wrestling. And who knows how it got put there? Who cares why it got put there? That was the love that you found in your life. And that's the love that you want to live with your entire life.
Don't forget his dogs.
Oh, the dogs too. Yeah. But it's just, how rare is it that we can do what we love?
I know.
I mean, to be totally transparent right now, I'm looking for a new career, because my career in teaching at a bank doing corporate training, for some reason they decided they didn't like the way I was teaching, because I was teaching more as a human than a company person. And so they let me go. And so I'm kind of scared of what's going to be next. So I'm opening myself to all the different possibilities, whether anyone would approve of it or not. And to me, that is taking care of my love.
Yeah.
My love is being around people who show love to me, because I spent much too long being around people who didn't. And that, wrestling was such a great part of my life, because I laughed every single day. And then Hudson Prazak and I would laugh for years more. And we can pick up exactly where we left off, telling funny jokes about a publication called the Shinonamaki Post, where we went to Larry Storch's Sports Porch for the promotion called They've Come to Kill the Rooster, where Ric Flair lost to Garbage Jones. And if I could live in that world every single day, I would. And I still wish. And I mentioned that thing about the picture of me and Bill Dundee.
Yeah.
And I said, that is the reason why I'm not working, why I never got to work in wrestling again. Because I'm 6'4". I made everybody look small. when the 7-foot tall Nitron came in and he was 6'5", I spread my legs wide and went.
Wait a minute. Are you suggesting that there was some exaggeration in wrestling?
Never.
But I applied to WWE and WCW, and Bischoff actually said on the predecessor to the podcast, which were like the old Prodigy message boards with Bob Ryder.
Oh my God.
He said I'd have to cut Johnson's knees off in order to hire him. But how many of those guys sat down and never stood up?
You know what? We Roger Kent here was about 6'3", 6'4", and Roger, and Joe has talked about this from a directorial standpoint. Roger would always have to stand behind the guys and lean the microphone around. But my question is, as you being 6'4", why in the world didn't they put Bill Dundee on a Chicago phone book, or did they?
The thing with Bill Dundee, you could have had an old school Marty O'Neill or Mean Gene Okerlund interview him, and superstar Bill Dundee, I'll put it in these terms, he would have been the Andre the Giant of midget wrestling.
Yes.
I mean, for all that he did in the business, good for you, Bill. What was he, like maybe Tom Cruise, 5'6"?
If he was wrestling in Mexico, he'd be in the minis.
Yeah. But superstar Bill Dundee, not a tall guy.
But he was able to use that size to be the underdog and be able to be an amazing wrestler. I love working with Bill. He was really nice to me. I mean, all those guys were nice to me, except the one day that Jerry Jarrett decided to throw a fireball in my face during a production meeting. But that's a different story.
Doesn't that happen to everybody at the office? I mean, it's pretty typical.
They didn't think I was awake enough.
Oh, good deal. That's kind of them. We're gonna shift gears a little bit. I typically don't ask our on-air guests to provide a list of who they feel is more memorable. We usually tell them this is the guy that was memorable to you.
Number 1, Nick Bockwinkel. Number 2, Nick Bockwinkel.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there a number 2? It's but you do follow me on Facebook. And by the way, before we put up some pictures here, I just want to allude to something about Facebook. I follow you on Facebook as well.
Thank you.
And I can tell everybody out there, and this is, as they say in the business, a shoot. You're not going to find a more genuine guy than John Horton. I think you and I, John, are similar in the fact that we tend to wear our hearts on our sleeves sometimes on Facebook. And even my kids will say, why are you doing that? You've got 5,000 people, and I'll say I got 5,000, followers, and I got 2 friends in that, in the 5,000. But you are an absolutely genuine guy, and there's no pretense about you. This is who you are. And I absolutely, and I know it's funny. I know when John Horton's having a bad day. And, we're thousands of miles apart, but I know because it resonates with me because, damn it, I had the same bad day the other day. And I'll talk about my divorce and feel about my divorce the same way John does. So in that sense, it's kind of a kindred spirit here, buddy. And I really appreciate it. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you, Mick. That means the world to me. Thank you.
Hey, no problem at all. I'll give you my mailing address for the check. You can bounce it right over to me. But in the meantime, let's take a look at, and again, this is John's list. This is Craig Johnson's list of some of the guys that he loved working with, maybe loved, maybe didn't, or more memorable. So, Chris, let's start with this young lad right here. My God.
Look at that hair.
That guy's absolutely stunning.
Stunning.
He is. Talk a little bit about your association with Steve.
Steve was just as scared as the rest of us. He had just started. He had started as Steve Williams and then became Steve Austin.
Yeah.
I arrived there as he and Chris were starting their feud. I arrived there when Jeannie was becoming a part of it, and who didn't fall in love with Jeannie, but I actually became friends with Jeannie, which was really nice. Steve loved what he did. It was the exact same story I told earlier. He loved what he was able to do, and he was willing to learn, and he was willing to give everything he had for getting paid $25 in Memphis and eating potatoes and cans of beans and just trying to stay in the business. And you could tell that passion every time you saw him.
Wow.
I know that best story I can tell about Steve was I was the assistant athletic director at the University of Cincinnati, and I was working a baseball game, and my phone rings in the middle of the game. And I hear, "Craig Johnson, what the hell are you doing?" And I went, "Steve?" He goes, "Yeah, I was going through some books and saw a picture of you, and I just wondered what the hell you were doing." I said, "I'm actually working a baseball game, Steve. Can I give you a call back?" He goes, "But you're doing okay." I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's great to hear from you." And then we talked the next day and talked for about an hour.
Fantastic.
He is a genuinely kind person, but I know people have their cycles. And you all will find this funny for my Greece trip, but I actually put, and Mick, you probably saw this on Facebook, where I put 1994 to 2025. The streak is finally over. I took a shot. I had not had an alcoholic beverage consciously in all those years, and I actually took a shot in Greece.
My God. Wow.
So I have lived my life without alcohol and drugs, but I understand that people have had their problems with that.
Yeah.
But when they come out the other side and they can be the people that they knew they could be without all that, that's great. And I think Steve's one of those people. He drinks a lot of beer, but the fact is, I think he knows. I think he genuinely knows who he is now.
John, I got to ask, what was the shot of? Ouzo?
It wasn't Ouzo. It was something really sweet that came from some sort of tree sap. But it was interesting. I may have to post the video because the video has me doing the shot like all confident, and then I go, "Oh my God!" And my phone goes down here, and it's all over the place.
You know, it's interesting. The Polish Joe right here, he's been known to like actually park himself outside a tree and literally drink the sap from the tree on a
He's
cake.
a sappy guy.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
he's
sorry.
yeah. No doubt about it. Boom.
Why would I sit outside of a tree when I got a bar that I've never been to in my life? You know, I could have gone and experienced that for the first time.
Yeah. Let's look at this guy
Hello,
here.
Sean Waltman. Hello, Lightning Kid.
Lightning Kid, you know, and I called when Shawn first came up to Eddie Sharkey's promotion, the PWA, in whatever late 80s. And I'm thinking to myself, who is this kid? You know, he walked in the locker room and he's talking to and Eddie Sharkey said, "Well, it's one of our workers." And I thought, you got to be kidding. You know, this guy is right out of junior high school. Mm-hmm. But he was so talented. And you talk about the guys that have had kind of the up and down, the cycles in life. Yeah. Talk about Shawn a little bit.
Shawn was a wide-eyed kid when I met him. We brought him in to put on the first nationally televised Lightning Kid Jerry Lynn match. And that was the first time I ever saw somebody jump off a top rope and land on a stage outside. Yeah. In other words, people jump every day here. It didn't happen back in the 1990s. Right. The exhibition that those two put on was a lesson in storytelling by two young people who you could tell loved the business.
Yeah.
Shawn was so proud of being handed the global light heavyweight championship. He was respectful. I mean, if you think of somebody that says things like, it's an honor, oh, thank you very much, I'm really appreciative. That's the way Shawn was when I first knew him. He was as polite and honorable as any person I know. Now, there's your ups and downs. But I actually talked to him once when he was working on a Domino's Pizza between gigs, just because we wanted to talk. And I said, Shawn, just keep on believing in what you're doing, my friend. You'll do well. And so he changed the way I could see wrestling, because it went from just grappling holds to sheer athleticism, more than any other match I ever called.
You know, he and Jerry Lynn out, you know, they had started their run up here in Minnesota in the PWA, you know, before they went. And, you know, it's been said many times that those two set the bar. They actually were the blueprint for the light heavyweights, not necessarily the luchador style, but it's just like all of a sudden it was okay to not weigh 350 pounds in this business. And yeah, I mean, to think that I've known Shawn, you know, 35 or 40 years is just extraordinary. Great story.
It's amazing when you're 39, you know.
It really is. It's you know, medical miracle, such as it is. Let's take a look at another guy. This guy right here. You know, and of all his characters, this was my favorite. I am still a huge Cactus Jack fan.
The story I'll tell about Cactus Jack was in Philadelphia after I had done Global. And I went to see him in a barbed wire match for Joel Goodhart's, I think it was TWA or whatever. Barbed wire match. They removed they wrapped barbed wire around the ropes. And Mick took a bump and wrapped his neck in the barbed wire, you know, flipped over, which he's done many times.
Yeah.
And after the match, I go backstage. They were nice enough to let me backstage. And I went in and I went, "You're crazy." He goes, "Yeah, I am. By the way, this is my fiance."
Just like it was another day at the office.
Yep. And here she was dressed in this beautiful red, white, and blue outfit or whatever. And I said, "And you're going to marry this?" And she goes, "Yes."
Oh.
And
wow.
Just another, what word am I using so much in this podcast? Love.
Yeah.
It was literally about his love. But I have to say, I don't know of another masochist any more tough than Mick Foley. He had to have been a masochist. That's the only way he would allow himself to do the stuff he's done and still be okay with it.
A couple of things about Mick Foley. First of all, you're not going to find a nicer guy in the
business. God, no.
and he is as sharp as a tack. I mean, this guy is a brilliant guy.
Yeah.
Let alone, you know, the fact that he's authored books. But you mentioned the toughness of Mick Foley. You know, in Vegas, they just roasted Mick Foley. And he finished up by talking about the car accident that he walked away from miraculously a couple of months ago. I mean, the car was completely demolished. And he said,
would you expect anything else from Mick Foley?
Exactly. He said the cops arrived on the scene and they said, "How the hell did you get out of this? How did you walk away?" And Mick finished the speech by saying, "Because I'm fucking Mick Foley."
That's right.
Man, that is it, you know, to a T. But again, talk about your dichotomy. What a brilliant, nice, humble guy.
Yes.
Oh, very, very humble. Let's take another. Oh, did this guy ever amount to anything in the business that you're aware of?
I don't know. I think his career was dead on arrival.
Oh, very good.
Thank you.
Very good.
I got to work with Mark in in Memphis when we did the challenge for the championship, which was that mammoth one-day tournament for the USWA title, because we needed to fill time. And you could tell there was something special about him just in the way he would be around. He would just be around the ring and in his presence. I loved. I got to meet him when Percy Pringle would take me on the road with him from time to time, except he was pallbearer. Yes. Oh, yes. Oh. Craig Johnson, I love having you around because you're such a nice guy. Oh, yes. George Jones. I love George Jones.
Don't hurt yourself, John.
But, I mentioned Mark, but then, of course, I'm going to mention Percy, who I didn't have in that list. He was my broadcast partner. He welcomed me. He never questioned why I was there. He always wanted to help me. So when I think of Mark, I think of Percy. Damn, I wish he didn't go so soon. Yeah. But I genuinely love that man. He taught me so much. He taught me words not to say, which was as important as teaching me what to say. Yeah. And he was my friend. Kind of miss the guy.
Super. All right, let's
Who's next on the hit parade?
On the hit parade, on the Craig Johnson hit. Oh, this guy here.
Lawler. Come on, Jerry.
Very. Jerry Lawler, ring general, ring genius. Of course, he and Vern Gagne didn't necessarily see eye to eye on a few things. Jerry's had a storied career in and out of the wrestling ring. Talk a little bit about Jerry.
Jerry was a consummate professional around me. When he came into the Sportatorium, it was something special. He also remembers people, too, because I saw him many years later in Seattle, Washington, and he goes, Craig Johnson, how the hell have you been?
Oh my God.
I mean, he just is, as I said, a genuine professional. Now, I wasn't really involved in the business side of Jerry Lawler because I know he could be somewhat ruthless in that, but the Jerry Lawler that worked with me was great. I think my favorite memory of Jerry working with me was when he and Terry Funk, I had 2 matches of theirs that I did. One was in Memphis, one was in Dallas. And Terry was chasing me around the ring, as Terry does, going, you gonna tell these people I didn't win that match? And Lawler got in front of me, and I was like, thank you, Jerry.
Oh, God.
Terry, an interesting aside. See, all these pictures bring up an interesting aside story. Terry Funk had me, I happened to be in Memphis after he won the world championship from Jerry. And I did the post-match interview for USWA, and I was wearing like a Bill Cosby sweater. I mean, I was just driving through town. And he said, and Terry goes, do me a favor, just hold the mic right here. Don't move it. I went, okay. And he starts the interview. Craig Johnson, they thought I would never be and he bumps his nose against the microphone. And he goes, sir, Howard Cosell was a great announcer. You were no Howard Cosell.
Oh
now,
boy.
Here's what he didn't know. In 1972, I was 9 years old at the Munich Olympics, and Bill Toomey, who had won the decathlon in '68, said, John, I want you to meet a few people here, and took me to the ABC Hotel. And there in the front lobby of the Sheraton Munich was Howard Cosell, Chuck Howard, Chet Forty, and Dennis Lewin. And the whole team was there right in the front lobby. And he sat me down in front of Cosell, and there had been a boxing match that was supposed to end in a draw, but the Russian boxer won because of the rules. And from what I've been told, I sat and talked to him somewhere between 20 and 45 minutes.
Wow.
And a producer approached my dad and said, you know, Howard has kind of fallen in love with your kid, wonders why he's such a whiz kid on the Olympics. And my dad said, well, he studied because he knew this would be the trip of his life. And he said, well, Howard would like to do an interview with him for the ABC coverage. And my dad said, well, we're going out of town tomorrow, but we'll be back and we'll stay a couple days. Can we do it then? And he said, perfect. That's perfect. We've got some events tomorrow, but the day after tomorrow would be perfect. The day of that conversation was September 4th. On September 5th, Arab terrorists took over the Olympic Village, and killed the Israeli Olympic weightlifting team. Could you imagine how different my life would have been if that hadn't happened?
My God.
So Howard, when Terry Funk mentioned Howard Cosell, it put something in my heart going, it's all connected. You're where you're supposed to be. That was a pretty amazing moment.
That's wow. What a story. Okay.
Up next on Slick Mix Top 10 Countdown.
Let's take a look at. I know. Here's a guy that you're going to be somewhat familiar with. If we can wake up Chris and have him put another picture on.
And what does this button do? There we go.
There we go. There you are.
Slap nuts.
Talk about hair on a guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the Double J.
Had no idea what Double J was when I knew him. He was just trying to learn as much as he could about the business. He loved the fans, or at least gave that appearance. Genuinely a great guy to work with when I worked with him. White meat baby face to the point of where he was almost Von Erich like, as in the way people loved him. Always put on a good show. Always was helpful. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to work with him later in like TNA or some of the things that he did. I think he has a very smart mind for the business, but he may rub some people the wrong way. People don't like me. I get that. But just he was a young kid that couldn't wait to see what he could do because he knew he had the potential to do it.
Okay, so begs the question, better baby face or heel?
I think better heel now because he's got that grit to him.
Yeah.
It's hard to see him as a baby face, but his recent AEW thing where he was trying to just talk about how he wanted that opportunity, you could get behind that because that took what he had back when he was a kid and brought it forward and saying, I want to do this before I finish.
Wow.
And it's that same energy that he had.
Fabulous. Okay, moving on. Casey.
Up next on the top 10 countdown. Don't introduce a song about a dead dog when I'm trying to do it.
This guy right here.
Are we brothers?
Oh yeah. There may be a handful of wrestling figures that are kind of polarizing.
Mm-hmm.
Either you worship the ground they walk on, or you just, I personally am a huge Jim Cornette fan. Talk about guys with a genius mind for the business. But again, there's a few that Jim has rubbed the wrong way over the years. Because he's Jim Cornette. He's
Yeah.
going to tell you what he thinks and screw you if you don't like it. Go away.
Yeah.
Tell us about Jim.
I met Jim when we went to Louisville to do one of our massive tapings. And I had totally lost my voice because I had done 30 shows in 6 days. And I didn't have any voice left. And God love him, he put me over like, my mama's soup can only do so much. Was always nice to me. I saw him in Dallas a few years later. I was supposed to do an interview, like a predecessor to a podcast with him. And unfortunately, I got sick the day I was supposed to do it. And I regret not having that. Genius mind. Love hearing his stories. I do think that he holds a hard spot in his heart because he genuinely is like a lot of college football fans who will always remember their 1992 national champions, and that was the greatest team of all time, and nothing will ever beat them.
Yeah.
And he thinks about that in wrestling. But there's no one who loves wrestling more than Jim Cornette does.
Is he right? And this is kind of an aside, because being an old school guy, I understand exactly where Cordy is coming from. Is he correct in his worldview of the wrestling business today?
I'm going to answer this question in a unique way. In 1970, my grandfather took me to see a Georgetown Hoyas game. Georgetown beat Maryland that night. They had a starting lineup of 5 white guys and a coach named Jack McGee.
Got it.
The next year, John Thompson arrived. The lineup looked different. The style of play was different. Move forward to when Patrick Ewing arrived, and suddenly slam dunks were everything. And now the game of basketball has evolved where sometimes you don't even think they're playing defense.
Right.
Sports evolve. I may love one era more than another. I watch all of it. I love going back and watching old Memphis tapes. There's a guy who has a thing called Vintage Wrestling Channel, and I've loved going back looking at just the sets and the announcers and the way studio wrestling used to be. Is any of it the greatest of all time? I think the only greatest I've ever seen was a New Japan wrestling match between Will Ospreay and Ricochet, which was a match that I show people saying, if you ever want to have your mind changed about professional wrestling, watch this.
Yeah.
Because it was ballet. I don't get stuck in eras. I think Corny gets stuck in eras. Okay. Is it right? No, it's his normal to go back to the very beginning. That is his love, and that is what he loves. We can't live his normal because we don't understand his normal. So yes, you can criticize him for what he likes, but it's what he likes. And that's what's important.
Well said, my friend.
Thank you.
That is good stuff. All right. Oh, there we go.
Eddie.
There we go. Talk about a guy who left us way, way too soon.
Yeah, you guys went from good stuff to hot stuff.
Here we go.
I see what you did.
Speaking of hot stuff, Eddie's the only wrestler that ever came over to my house for dinner. Eddie and Medusa came over for spaghetti one night, and I guarantee you the spaghetti was awful, but they came over and spent an evening with me. And it was just a lovely evening. Eddie wanted me to learn more of the creativity in wrestling. I got to book the Horowitz angle in Global.
Okay.
And I had known that they had done the Jack Hart thing in Florida, so I knew it wasn't anything new. But what I had that he loved was the term "the winner." Because when he was announced as the winner, Barry Horowitz, that became his gimmick.
Yeah.
And because money kept us from flying in a lot of folks, it never came to be. But this is how the Horowitz gimmick was going to go. Horowitz would never lose. He'd be disqualified. He'd be counted out. He would hear a 3 count, but he said, "I never heard the third count because the fans were too loud." And then there was going to be a match where there must be a winner. And as soon as they introduced him as the winner, Barry Horowitz, he goes, "Thank you," and walks out of the ring.
Love it. Oh.
And that was the way. And Eddie loved it. He said, "That's hilarious." But Eddie didn't go, "Well, this guy's a sportscaster. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about." He loved the idea of creativity. And some of the things he did was so far out there, but oh my God, everything he did had an impact.
Yeah.
You remember it. And other than maybe Paul Heyman, one of the true geniuses of booking that I've ever known. And I got to work with I got to work with Paul one night in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, when I got to again, another side story off a picture. I got to be a ring announcer for an ECW show because I was down there on vacation, and I decided to go to the show. He says, "You want a ring announce? We don't have one." And I had this god-awful sports shirt, and I got in the ring at the beginning and got booed out of the place and never got back in the ring again. But still did the announcing.
Hey, you made it. If you have been booed out of a building at an ECW show, there you go. That's heaven. You know.
And then Joel Gertner comes in and says, "It's so good to see that Andrew Cunanan has made it here tonight."
Oh my God.
I went, "Thanks, Joel."
Joel Gertner. Oh man. All right. There's another guy. Eddie Gilbert. Again, what was Eddie? 33 or something when he passed. The first, and Eddie was such a genuine guy. And again, just as an aside, the first time I met Eddie, he kind of came from that same background, the early magazines, wrestling magazines, the Norman Keatzer publications, taking pictures at ringside and, fan club news and what have you. And Eddie introduced himself to me and said, "I've heard of you," and blah, blah. And it was just like, I'm euphoric. This was really, really good to hear. God bless him. What a talent. His matches with Mick Foley. Just extraordinary. Okay, we saw a quick picture of our next person who, as we speak, actually, my producer Chris Tubbs was not a fan of his character in the AWA. He was not a fan of the Trooper. But let's talk about the Patriot.
I remember meeting Del and knowing him from being the Trooper in the AWA. And I remember his reaction to, "You're going to put a mask on me?" And Del knew to trust people. Maybe a little too much. Del put on that mask and then made it his own.
Okay.
A nice guy, a wonderfully nice guy who I know faced his demons as well, but came out on the other side. And the last time I had a chance to talk to him, he was enjoying life. He thought it was pretty good. He had what it took to lead, but I don't think it would have gone on to the WWE like it did because there was a Hulk Hogan. Sure. There wasn't somebody who could be a true hero. And he wanted to provide an example to others of being a hero. Bill Eadie and Joe Pedicino booked that beautifully. It worked for global. I'm not sure it would work anywhere else because people are too cynical.
Got it.
It would never work today.
Oh,
instead, you have 5 people who are El Grande Americano or however.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow. Interesting. Yeah, I don't think it would work today at all. I mean, the whole landscape and the wrestling fans, the crowd has changed.
And what is a patriot?
That's yeah, exactly. What is a patriot? Depending on who you're talking to, what is a patriot?
Well, did you see my thing on Facebook yesterday? I said, here's my take on the Charlie Kirk situation. I was in Greece and somebody told me somebody got shot, and I went, who? And then I went on with my life. I had no idea who the guy was. None.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
So when I think of patriots, I think of people like my dad who fought in World War II against the Italians. And what he would do every night is they'd fight in the war because that's what they were supposed to do. And then he would invite the Italian officers across the line, and they'd play poker every night because he knew talking was better than shooting. That's patriotic, to try to find a common ground.
Okay, let's finish her up here with.
Did I get a little bit there?
Oh yeah, it's I. To be honest with you, this whole interview, this whole podcast has resonated. There we go.
There they are,
Kevin, Gary. There they are. We got to talk about them, and I know Joe has a follow-up question about another Von Erich, but talk a little bit about Kevin and Gary.
I never knew how talented Kevin Von Erich was. I didn't appreciate him because I thought Kerry was everything because of the way that he was so built and the charisma that he had. But Kevin was probably the better athlete.
Yeah.
He had a gymnast body instead of a bodybuilder body.
Yeah.
He also kept them together. He made sure Kerry did what he was supposed to do in the ring. They both look up to David, but it was Kevin that kind of kept them all together. I had heard stories about Kerry, didn't want to believe them, and then came to find out that they were all true. I cheered for these guys so loudly when they took on the Freebirds. I was in the Sportatorium when they wouldn't let anybody else in the Sportatorium because it was a Freebirds Von Erichs match, and it was the war. It was Bad Street, USA. I was at Texas Stadium. I was at the Cotton Bowl for so many of their amazing matches. I was there when Kerry won the World Championship from Ric Flair, and it was a massively beautiful moment. But I also knew that he would probably lose it a couple days later. They gave Texans somebody to cheer for that were very much one of their own. And Texas needed that. Yeah, it was the halcyon days of Texas oil, and everything, JR, and everything was beautiful about Texas. And they carried the flag proudly because Texas used to be a beautiful place and a wonderful place. There's so many people in Texas that I love. It's just the way it's run that I don't. But they held the standard for the state of Texas, gave them a hero to cheer. And that is one hell of a great role to play.
You know, it is, and I think it goes without saying when people talk about Texas wrestling, the Von Erichs. That's it. It's the Von Erichs and Texas wrestling. Great. And Joe, I know you've got to follow.
Perfect segue to you can't talk Texas wrestling, you can't talk WCCW, you can't talk about the Von Erichs with the patriarch.
Yeah,
Fritz Von Erich. Give us the insight on old Fritzy.
Well, Fritz and I didn't have any interaction other than when I used to do the audio for World Class. Larger than life character, intimidating as hell. I think that he led through that intimidation. But I teach in all my classes, whether it be corporate training or the classes that I teach around the country on authenticity. You never know what kind of day somebody's having. Imagine all he went through when things were going wrong.
Yeah.
And to be able to stay strong through that. Now, was it false bravado? No, I think he just went with what he did. But to be the patriarch of that family, to be the person that guided Texas wrestling to be what it was, to allow people like Dan Bynum and Keith Mitchell and Mickey Holden to create World Class and see the vision of what it could be. He might have been somebody from the Texas Sticks, but he had some intelligence to him. Hell, he went to Baylor University. He went to SMU. You know, there you go. He's a proud Mustang. But I would not trade my life for his, ever. I've seen a lot of pain. I don't think anybody's seen as much pain as that guy has.
You know, you can't imagine, you know, you say, okay, well, you had 4 sons that, you know, took their lives.
Yeah.
But when you really stop and think about it, not just a throwaway thought, oh, poor. Think of that. One child is bad enough, but then they have this succession of 3 more. I mean, it's just, and you know, and a lot of people will put the hex on him for the whole situation. I didn't know him, but what a presence. And you talked about bigger than life.
Yeah.
I mean, even through the TV screen, not even working with him, Fritz Von Erich was something else again. Wow. Oh, each one of us individually wants to, you know, thank you for being on the air. But I put you over before, so I'll do it mildly this time. I'm just going to say, in all honesty, and a lot of times when we've had a guest on, I'll, you know, go with the superlatives, whatever. We've done 182 shows. This is my favorite podcast. You're real, and it's been my honor, and that's, as they say, that's a shoot. Keep doing what you're doing. You're a
you know,
Mick, So
I often wonder if people remembered me, because I was there for just such a short time. And I really wish I could have kept going. I could only imagine what could have happened if I did. I wouldn't have the kids that I have now. I wouldn't have had the life experiences that I have now. It was a great time in my life. But I wondered if I had left a mark on the business. Yet every single time I talk to somebody on a podcast or in an interview, I realize I made a difference. That's sometimes hard get my head around. But the fact is, here we are 30 years later, and we're still talking about it. And so if I made a difference in one person's life or a dozen people's lives, that's why I did it. It was joyful for me, but I wanted to entertain people. I wanted to inform them. I wanted to give them the opportunity to love what I loved. And that, to me, is the greatest gift I could have had. So thank you for saying what you did, because it truly hits me in the heart. And I'm probably going to go over here and cry for a little while, but that's who I am.
Made an impact in the couple of years you were in the wrestling business, but you as an individual, you're still making an impact. That's, I guess in terms of life, wrestling is a blip on the radar. People say to me, hey, you want to be remembered as a wrestling announcer? No, I want to be remembered as a good dad.
Yeah.
The rest of it is window dressing. So you're still making an impact. I said, keep doing what you're doing. And and this was absolutely not only eye-opening, but it was a heartwarming. It was my favorite podcast.
Again, thank you.
Met you before today, but just from our little pre-podcast discussion, and I'm going to be genuine right now, try to be for the most part. I could tell within about the first 5 seconds that you were beyond genuine and just a great fucking guy. We had to throw one swearing into our podcast.
Wait, I can do it too. Hold on.
I love that. But thank you for being on. It really, I really enjoyed the podcast. Hopefully, someday, actually meeting you and sitting down and maybe talking you into having a second shot and talking some more wrestling stuff. Yeah. But before we get on to Chris, I want to backtrack a little quick production question.
Yes.
You said that when you broke in, you were doing the audio, the entrance music. Audio cassette or carts?
Cassettes.
Oh, that's worse. Yeah. I mean, you gotta. Oh no!
Yeah,
no. When they're done there.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew what a cart machine was because I was working at the student radio station. But yeah, no cassettes.
Absolutely sucked.
Cart.
Those were something.
Anyway, thank you.
I never had to deal with it.
Joe, thank you.
Yeah, I
what's that, Chris?
Yeah, I never had to deal with a cart thing, or I never had to deal with cassette, but I had to deal with a cart. Yeah, I want to echo what these guys have said, just in terms of the authenticity, the being genuine, because I've often said that we want to have our little corner of the world to be positive, to be supportive of each other. And there are people that have tried to come in and troll and bring that negativity, and that's not something that we want. We want this to be comfortable with expressing their true selves, and it's just a chance to tell stories and talk to people. And I had not met you before today, but I also thank you for all of your time that you gave us, and the stories that you and Mick were able to just talk about back and forth. I see a lot of connections, and I love and respect Mick, and to see that connection between you two, I have those same feelings towards you, John. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Now, can we talk about Jake the Milkman Milliman?
Oh, Jake
I just wanted to
Milliman.
prove that I did watch AWA.
You're
There's
the
the hook.
one. What I want to say too, John, before we let you go, I know that you made a couple of overtures to me. You're going to be in town. You're going to be in Minneapolis at this point or whatever. Let's get together and have lunch, whatever. The reason we haven't, and that happens, then you and I will. I'll fit you into my busy schedule of napping and doing podcasts, and again, buddy.
We'll have a juicy Lucy.
Oh
together.
my God! There we go, a juicy Lucy.
See, Minneapolis reference.
Somebody knows how to work Google.
No, my daughter lives there.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I'm actually looking at a thing from the Minnesota World's Fair that says I'm a fan. Channel 4 WCCO. We're literally right over in my podcast.
John, you're something else again, and I mean that in a good way, in a tremendously good way. We talked about authentic and real. Mm-hmm. This is the world of pro wrestling, and there's not a lot of authentic and real. And I'm not talking about the business. I mean, you are an ace.
Thank you. I needed this today. Honest to God, I needed this today.
Thank you, buddy. We appreciate it. And just dig into that wallet of yours, and we'll have Juicy Lucy someday.
I'll let this guy do it.
Oh, okay. Hey, probably a better conversationalist, but that's another story altogether.
He looks like he's ready to compete Juicy Lucy.
Me and my big mouth.
John, thanks so much, man. Just the greatest. Thank you. See you later.
All right. There is lot of stories that y'all were talking about, but it's normally we don't go this long, but we don't have stories like that. We don't have everything kind of one on top of another, and it's hard when you hear you guys just kind of going, in that natural conversation. It wasn't an interview. It was two guys catching up and talking just about life and wrestling and so many different things that go on. So it's a little bit longer, but I know that people are really going to enjoy it. I know that I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I know Joe and I were both we were sitting back texting each other just while you guys were doing what you were doing. So it was this was really, really fun to hear kind of a backstory, not necessarily about AW, but you guys worked together in SNR. So he was part of the SNR block. So, that in and of itself, and having a connection with Shawn Waltman, the reason, if you're wondering why the AWA connection, that's why it's going up in the main show. But fantastic guy, fantastic individual.
And again, if you follow John on Facebook as I do, he does wear his heart on his sleeve, and there's no question in your mind what kind of a day John Horton is having. And
that's dangerous in today's society. Let's just be honest.
It is.
That's dangerous when you put yourself out there.
It is dangerous, and it's gutsy, and it's real, and I can't say enough about him.
You can't be afraid to be real. You can't be afraid to be real.
Chris, I know we're running long here, but I just wanted to say, in terms of the stories that we talked about back and forth, believe it or not, I really hesitate when we're talking to a guest to allude to something I may have done in the business, because then I'm thinking, hey, it's not about the guest. Don't make it about you. Nobody cares about, your highlight. But when John was talking, there's so many parallels. It was amazing. So I'm glad we finally got the guy on board. So we doing shout outs?
Let's do some shout outs and bring it home. So Mick, you up?
Roger Buck, our good Freddie, our good friend Freddie Buck, Roger Buck, always out of luck. Roger Buck, great friend, the number one timekeeper in the wrestling business. Works that ring bell like nobody else. And Roger, a longtime AWA stalwart here in the Twin Cities area. Raj, hats off to you, buddy.
My blind dart throw of the week. When I saw a post on Facebook, and I thought of Bobby Heenan when I saw the post, and the reason for that, as Bobby Heenan said in the interview about Laurent Soucy, his parents gave him 9 months to come up with a name. Well, I look at this person's name, Jerry Denise Grabo. Now, I'm not stupid. I'm guessing it's a shared account with your wife. But if your middle name really is Denise, where's the nephew? Anyway, Jerry Denise Grabo is my blind dart throw shout out of the week.
Oh my God, there was a boy named Sue. Okay, you can chill.
Nothing wrong with that. If his middle name is Denise, so be it. But I'm betting that that's his wife's account and they share it.
What if it's Dennis and it's wrestling and it's spelled wrong? Because we know wrestling is known for grammatical.
Well, then he entered in his name wrong because I literally copied and pasted the name into our bullet points.
Wrestling never makes a
copy and
mistake.
pasted what you.
Wrestling never makes a mistake grammatically. Kurt Hennig. So
No.
all right, let's go ahead.
Yeah, mine's Brian Worth and Brian. You know.
Yeah, how many
But
ways?
Brian, I got right.
Brian Worth is a great guy. And he is loyal to the cause. He's one of the few that actually sticks with us through thick and thin. So God bless him for that. And good stuff this week, guys. A lot of memories. And yeah, John Horton wasn't the only guy getting emotional. Let me say that.
Yeah.
So have a terrific week. Let's not even kid around this week because this was a good one. And I'm going to go on. We're recording this probably a week ahead, and I am going to promote this heavily because I thought this is one people should listen to. Absolutely, the story of John Horton, Craig Johnson.